Here at the corner of Bowie and Lawndale, not too far from the Houston Ship Channel, is one of the oldest known of its kind in the city of Houston. Join me today on Walk Through Texas History. We're here at the Harrisburg-Jackson Cemetery in Houston, Texas. It is one of the oldest known historically black cemeteries in the city, with graves dating back to the 1840s, and the last known grave here in 1967. It's actually two cemeteries, the Harrisburg Cemetery and the Jackson Cemetery. It's kind of combined into one because it's just so large, and they're literally right next to each other. We'll take a look at the cemetery itself and the historical marker right there in front of us. Here's the historical marker for the cemetery. It talks about the Harrisburg-Jackson Cemetery. Like I said, 1840s was the first graves. It says because of the railroad and local cattle industry because of Allen Ranch. But the bottom part is really what gets me. The people that are buried here, there's some well-known historical African-American figures. Tom Blue, he was a servant to Sam Houston, and supposedly at the Battle of San Jacinto, he is buried here. And then also you've got Steve Ray. He's a famous rodeo rider, and he was on the Allen Ranch. And then you've got George W. Sanders, Wilson Burley, was a colored infantry for the U.S. During the Civil War, and Austen Winfrey, a Buffalo soldier who served during the Spanish-American War. Several veterans of World War I and other wars as well. We'll take a look and see how many headstones we can find. There's not as many headstones, obviously, as there are people buried here. So we'll look around and see what we can see today. I did want to give you an idea of how big the cemetery is. It is a very large piece of land, several acres. There's some headstones to my left, but it is very large. We'll go walk around now. Now this is the very first headstone I came to. I can barely read any of it. It's hard to read exactly. Looks like, I really can't even tell you. I see a D, an E, and R, a G, an O, and an E. I just can't put the name together. It's been vandalized a long time ago, it looks like, but it's sunken down in the ground. And there's several more to my right. Let's go look at those. Now, I didn't expect him to have a very nice headstone. I'm glad he does. Here is the final resting place for Steve Ray, the famous rodeo rider on the Allen Ranch. I'll get some pictures if I can, and I'll put them up here. Hopefully I can find them. But he was a very famous rodeo rider here in the Pasadena area and Houston in general. Now here is Eliza William. She was 15 years old when she died in 1913. Headstone is in pretty good shape for his age. It's over 100 years old. Now here is a plot right here at the corner of Lawndale that is a Pryor family plot. Most of these were buried here over 100 years ago. There are 5 known graves I can see, or known headstones I can see here. There's probably more graves. But you've got, looks like Mary Pryor here. Abraham Pryor. And Martha Pryor. Right behind them, Sally Pryor and Patrick Pryor Sr. Now here's a World War I veteran, Richard Woods, U.S. Army. He died in 1954. Here's another area. It looks like a family plot. Several more. I've got some pictures you can see at the end of close-ups of those headstones. But you've got Gertrude Washington and Fred Collar, both died in 1922. A little bit one after another. And then there's two headstones here. Can't make them out. They're concrete that's over time has just faded away. But it's typical of a lot of these cemeteries. I am glad to see it's mowed very well. Unfortunately, there's a lot of mounds of dirt around here in the middle of the cemetery, which is a little unusual. It's hard to see some parts of it, but other than that, it's actually in very good shape. As I made my way around the corner, I noticed this area. There's a bamboo pile to my left, and you can see where bamboo was. Looks like bamboo had taken over this back corner of the cemetery, and not that long ago, bamboo was cut down all around. Looks like it found several graves in this area, and I'm glad to see that. People have been working hard out here, it looks like, and you've got some really large headstones that were located. Annie Johnson and Fanny Calloway. And then there's another one, doesn't have the name, but it tells you their date of death and their age, 80 at 1914. That's a pretty long time. And just to give you another idea of the size, a lot of unmarked graves. You can see sticks everywhere for the graves. Every once in a while I come across some concrete in the ground, probably a grave right there. No headstone. A lot of headstones were probably stolen or destroyed over time, or they're just buried in the ground. So I just want to show you the sheer size of this cemetery. It's probably several hundred people buried here. No way of knowing without doing a ground sonar of some sort. As so many of these are, this headstone that's cracked and against this tree, it's unreadable at this point. I can't even make out any name on there. Just an idea of what you see here. Here's the very back end of the cemetery. I've disturbed every dog around these houses. Just walking back here. I guess they're not used to anybody being back here. So pardon their noises. But just show you, this is the more taken care of and newer part of the cemetery back here. A lot of headstones. You can see the rows where the graves are. And you can see all the headstones. I'm not going to stop at each and every one to video them. I will, however, take pictures for the end. Now I am glad to see this one. This one's upright. There was a video shot here about 4 years ago. This headstone was laying down on the ground. And it's actually in great shape. You can read just about everything on it. And I'm glad it's back upright the way it should be. It may not be perfect, but at least it's legible and you can see it. I did want to take a video for this one. It's a private during World War I, Tom Robinson. It actually has two headstones. One's flat on the ground there, and it looks like a newer headstone right there. And then this headstone is the largest headstone in the cemetery that I've seen. Marion and Anthony Taylor. They were 60 and 80, and it gives, looks like their children's names or other people that were buried here's names. Lily M. Cage, Martha Jones, and Alice Stevenson. Very interesting. Here is at Austen Winfrey. He was in the 9th Texas Volunteer in the Spanish-American War. 25 years old when he died. He was born 100 years before I was. Well, I'm leaving you here with this. This is Harrisburg Cemetery. And just when you walk in the gates to your left, this is actually the old part of the cemetery that has been, there's no headstones here at all. There are spots and sticks in the ground for where the headstones or where the graves are. This is probably where Tom Blue is buried, I would imagine, being he was buried probably after the Civil War at some point. And this is probably where most of the burials in the 1840s and 50s occurred. Well, I'll leave you here, folks. Hope you enjoyed it, as we're not too far from Glendale Cemetery in this old Harrisburg-Jackson Cemetery, the oldest known black cemetery in all of Houston. Don't forget to like and subscribe and follow me on Facebook. Until next time, folks, have a good one.